Hello, everyone. How are you doing? As we continue our marathon day, we are heading towards the end of our lineup, and I'm super excited to have Sparkle Lindsay here today. And she's here because I love her name. Okay, I heard the name Sparkle, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to have somebody named Sparkle in my life. So we're gonna go ahead and she's here. It's going to be a phenomenal experience. I'm gonna share the link to her book in here, and just the butterflies. I want to say what's really cool too is as I did the programming for this, you don't always know how all the authors are going to interact and connect. But if you could stay and listen to Stacey Webb, her cover is also butterflies.
Oh,
So
really?
it's really kind of interesting how everything kind of connects. But let's share a little bit now though about you and your story.
Well, my name is Sparkle Lindsay, motivational keynote speaker and an author, and I'm the owner of Sparkle LLC, The Light at the End of the Tunnel. And what we do is we train coaches to be great coaches who walk alongside those that are battling mental health and addiction. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
and that ties in well. We had Sheldon Stovall. I don't know if you know him. He was on here earlier. He's also a pastor who really talks about spirituality combined with mental health and those issues.
mhm.
And that's the kind of the whole purpose of the theme today is that all these things will be intertwined. So why don't you share a little bit about what was the motivation for you to write this incredible book?
Well, in 2020, I started. I'm a woman in long term recovery for 6 years, 8 months. So I'm close to 7 years. And I've had 1,400 coaches go through my program. And so when I first started, though, I was a recovery coach. Okay. So at that point, I was writing a pamphlet during 2020 because millions of people were calling me during that time. People who didn't even know if they had drug problems or whatever that may be. They were calling me, and I started realizing it was the same questions, same stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to make a pamphlet and I'm going to send it to people. And I got to writing it and I got to adding all of my different quotes to it, which I have 2,043 of my own quotes that I've had. And I started realizing, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a mini pocket guide. And it was really one of the first things that helped me put myself out there in a vulnerable state. And from then on, I just went on ahead and decided to get it put out there. And then I also put a workbook with it as well, which is on Amazon. It was written in 2021, which was beautiful. And then it inspired me to write a lot of other books as well. So, and everything just to kind of help people become human and enjoy the human experience, but honestly, find love within themselves to go deeper.
Such an important point. And this program was created during 2020, and I'm just going to go ahead and share the link. We do accept donations, and then we also have some merchandise. I have this really cool little cup. There's like wine glasses, beer glasses, everything else. And one of the things that's important about this show is we do not charge for our authors. This is an author helping author event. And so this is one of the ways that we're able to maintain the platform and do the work that we do. And I just think it's really kind of important that we talk a bit more about what was going on in 2020. It's like the elephant in the room. And how did this come about that you obviously the mental health system was not prepared with what happened in 2020? So can we dive a bit deeper into that?
Well, people were not aware of the fact that mental health and addiction hadn't been out loud at that point. And people were pretending they were okay when they weren't. And then when 2020 hit, it put us behind closed doors to think about nothing but ourselves and what we need to do to fix that. And so, what you started realizing is there were a lot of people who were lonely, a lot of people who realized that maybe their drinking habits or drugging habits were worse than what they thought. A lot of people dealing with, like I said, loneliness and also like panic. And so for us, people who have already been in recovery, a lot of what we seen was like people panicking, not even noticing that they had these situations. So when we were able to open up our hearts and our minds and open up our lines to a lot of people, it really, really started to kind of strike a nerve for people to start working on themselves, which isn't easy. We're talking shadow work and we're talking about going from within. And that was really where people started doing, their shadow work and stuff.
So, Sparkle, I want to dig a bit more into this. So, this was during COVID,
Yeah.
but for instance, last weekend, a lot of Americans, they were going through a very emotional weekend. I don't
Hmm.
even know if I could have done the show last weekend with what was going on. And a lot of influencers came out and they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm stressed. I'm at my wits' end. There's a lot of people right now who are very much comparing those to those kind of COVID feelings that they are having this anxiety. And what can they do, and how could your book potentially help them in the work you do?
Well, you know, first is the willingness to want to stay out of the chaos. I think oftentimes it's easy when we see a lot of stuff around us going up in flames, we want to go up with it. To be present is to be where your feet are. And so my book is simple but deep. It takes you to a space that's present within you, and that showcases that you don't have to go up with chaos. You allow the dust to settle, and then you look at the opportunity that's available. But we're so busy sometimes worried about the stuff that's happening all at once that we forget there's nothing that can happen until it settles and we see exactly where we need to be. This is called being grounded. And so, a lot of what my book really holds is just simple tips and tricks that keep you calm and cool in the storm. And it also keeps you being honest with yourself, which means no matter how old you are, no matter where you're at in your life, the book is a book of self reflection, which means as long as you're real with you, you will stay where you need to be. Where we usually get ourselves in trouble is when we're paying attention to what everybody else is doing except for ourselves. We get out of alignment and then we lose ourselves in that. And so it's hard to get realigned again if every time something happens we go up with chaos, we lose ourselves in it. And so this is really a practice, and that practice is consistency, and that's really what the book offers. It offers consistency at any time, especially when you just need to be realigned and regrounded.
Yeah, I think excellent point. This concept of ground and this concept of coming back and letting things settle. I see so many people where they're spiraling, and I'm like, can you impact this? Can you change this? Can you do anything about it? And the answer is no. Like, you got to let it go. Like, you've got to move that aside. And I want to talk about this excellent point about, as you were doing the research for the book, what things like surprised you or really kind of struck you as you were building this incredible book and this incredible journey?
Well, my book is based off of lived experience. And I noticed that when I was a person who was battling substance use disorder, and now as I'm a woman in long term recovery, I realized that I was my own demise. And so being honest with myself when I was writing this hit my soul. So there was a lot of things, and a lot of my books, they usually make me cry because they're coming out of me. It's no pretending. And that space is where we want to be. We want to be authentic within our skin and unapologetically be who we want to be. But often the things around us keep us from doing that because we allow it. And so, doing that research, I realized the only person that can change anything with me is me. And that's for anybody else. And we just have to be ready to receive it. And I think that was really the space I was in, is making sure that people honor and own what they're doing and work on fixing them, and the rest will evolve as it may. It took a lot of practice for me to do that, almost 7 years into a journey that will be forever. And I'm still learning how to continuously do this. And it's becoming more beautiful and beautiful the more I get into myself and get deep from within. So it truly, truly is about self reflection for us.
I think that's so important, and I want to connect this to one of the authors earlier for people who listen to Natural Mystic. But if you haven't listened to Natural Mystic and you're listening to this at a later date and you want to go back and forth between them, she just had such a great point about, she was much older and she did healing, but she realized, like, I can't heal adult me until I look at the child who had went through some terrible things in her childhood. And that, for sometimes for some of us, it is really looking at that whole person. So one of the things I wanted to ask about is, when you're looking at your ideal reader, or you're looking at readers in general, what do you want them to take away? Like, what is the core essence? Like, if you're like the one thing somebody could take away, what would that be?
fall in love with yourself for the first time or fall in love with yourself all over again. That's the whole thing. She talks about going back. Well, most of addiction and mental health stem from trauma. So regardless, whatever your inner child is holding on to, if you're holding on to that, that's what you're bringing into your present. And so it's very important that you find deep down in there. It's that hard stuff that we've covered up. We got to get up in there. We got to figure out what it is so we can release ourselves and start living in the present moment.
Yeah, I really love that message, and it kind of actually reminded me of James Woosley was talking a lot about house building, right?
Hmm.
And that kind of analogy of you can't build that house on a weak foundation, and
Wow.
you can't just pretend that foundation's strong. You got to go fix it, right?
Yes, and the thing is it's us saying it, but the action is so much more intense, right? And that space where you're like, whoa, there's some stuff I have to do. But communicating with ourselves and being able to do that is not easy. And that's where that receiving, like I said before, we have to have a willingness to want to do it. But when it hits and we're ready, it's usually when we're sick and tired of being tired, and that's the space where we really can start to dig deep and figure out, why are we allowing these things? Why are we not looking into ourselves and going deeper? The power from within is within us. And all we have to do is seek to understand it. But it's not easy, and it takes time and patience.
Yeah, and that really relates to a book earlier we talked about, The Power of Joy, which I think is so important. And this was also a COVID story where a group of 10 writers came together, did an anthology, and were like, okay, we're not in a great time, but how can we still go out and find that little kernel of joy? And I really want to kind of bring this out. You have a larger practice, you mentioned coaching.
Mhm.
What can people do when they're struggling and they just feel alone and they feel like I'm the only person going through this, which is so often the case when you're going through these kinds of addictions and crisis.
Well, in my Legs to Your Table series, that involves being a better me for me and self care is the best care level up, and the legs to your table are the four legs that support you in your foundation. Everybody thinks they should do this alone, but that is unrealistic. And the problem is you're usually we are too prideful to ask for help. And unless it puts us at our worst, is when we ask for help. But when we finally get that help, we need to consistently keep help around us. So the question is who is your village? Who are your people around you? What are your supports look like? So those that are feeling lonely or those that feel like they're by themselves, please reach out for help. Reach out to get the support you need, and reach out and tell the truth. Be vulnerable with people who can help you so that you can move forward and they can walk with you. Your team of those four legs, those four people that take care of you, or however many you have as your village, are people who realign you and they look out for you. And that's for any leader, that's for any healer, because we can't give away something we don't have. And if we're willing to help others, but we don't want help people to help us, we sound pretty hypocritical. And so the point of the matter is, the way it works is, if we're getting the help we need and then we're helping those that are in need, everybody's getting the help they deserve.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message. Like James talked about in the last segment, like we all rise up together. Like it's not a competition,
Absolutely.
and there's enough room for all of us if we just reach out. There's pushing someone down is not going to help you rise up.
Well, and we've got to remember, a lot of people do this. They throw themselves into competition, but the point of the matter is, it's you versus you. Whatever you're choosing to do is you in this room. Whatever is written for someone else is written for them. Cheer them on. If it's not your time, it's not your time, and it's theirs. Cheer them on and let them do what they need to do. It was written for them. And then what's written for you will be for you. And so, as long as you keep that in and know that you're the one that can be in the way of your successes, or you're the one that can be a part of your successes, instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing, just focus on what you can control. And that's usually just us, you know?
No, I think that's so crucial is, focus on you, be there for others, support others. Tearing somebody down is not going to raise you up. And I love that messaging. I do want to share real quick. My books are all available today for Amazon for absolutely free. And one of the key things about being an author is all of these algorithms are designed off reviews in Amazon. So if you could download, like, share, really, really appreciate it. They're available today and tomorrow. If you're listening, it is January 31st, and so they're also available for February 1st. Say that three times fast. Landsay, I've put your book in here to share to make sure that people have access to it. I know you do a lot of coaching, a lot of events. Are there anything that you want to share that you have upcoming with the audience?
Well, I will have a peer collaborative that's going on internationally for any peer that's across the world right now, which is great. I also, if you can, please put my website in there, sparklelindsay.com, so you guys can check out my books, all of the things that I have to offer, classes. Like I said, 1,400 coaches have came through my program, and it has been a wonderful thing for them. I also have a coach's corner, which will be going live here February. So you'll get some information that can really help you guys work on yourself as the humans, the lifetime fitness of our mind, body, and spirit. And so for me, I think it's just exciting. I've been in business for 5 years, and it's just been exciting to hear new people come in, authors come in, business owners come in, leaders, healers, coaches, all of the above. So check out the website. And also, if you're struggling with something, please call Crisis Intervention Line. You can also give me a call. I have all of my Instagrams, Facebooks, everything. DM me, and we can make sure we get you some help or get you a coach that can walk with you.
So I put your links in there, and I want to say something. I'm a coach. I'm a university instructor. Also been doing this for several years, and there is never any shame in admitting that you need help. And we all have that day. Like, I have to call people some days. There's days when I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. For those who listened to Sheldon earlier, he talked about he's a pastor. He is trained in this. He's counseling people. And then he spent days where he couldn't even get out of bed because of grief. Like, we all have those moments where we're like, I can't do this alone. So such a tremendous message that you just shared on that. I kind of want to switch it a little bit now from going into your personal practice and into the book, which are just incredible what you do, and such a big fan about writing in general. This is an author helping author event. And I think a lot of times, kind of very similar things is, what is your advice to an author who's out there, or a person who's out there who aspires to be an author, and how to get that point of sharing their story, of writing their truth in their books?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with being vulnerable with ourselves, and what we truly are wanting to write about. I think the things we want to write about and we have excitement for, it's easy to write about. And sometimes it's okay I know for me, I do a lot of meditation to visualize what I want in a book. I also do a lot of meditation that involves, like, my Self Care is the Best Care book, which is now in high schools. I wanted a book that is easy for kids to be able to identify with their emotions, and learn it at an early age. So maybe we have less problems with addiction and mental health because people can identify with that. It took years for me to find out how to identify with my emotions, but if I would have learned it at a younger age, who knows where I may have been. So do you have reasoning to it, right? Also, I do what we call morning pages. So I wake up in the morning, 6 o'clock, I do a nice little meditation, and I just write. And I just write whatever comes to me, and I visualize what I might want, and it brings it down. I also say, if you're one of those people who have great ideas and you have stuff ready, but maybe you're not a writer, get with a ghostwriter. Oftentimes ghostwriters are really good people. They can put things together for you. And then from there, you want to make sure that ghostwriter knows your personality. You want to make sure they understand you, because if they don't, it may be a little off, I guess I would say. But those are always ways to get a little bit of help. Some people use AI. For me, I feel like AI is not really my jam. I like coming from my own stuff, my own authenticity. I have a way to my writing, and I'm sure you guys do too. One thing I will say is this: whatever you are aspiring to do. If you want to write a book, go write that book. If you want to be a speaker, go be a speaker. As long as you tell yourself you're going to be that, you will be that. And that's usually the hardest part, is us getting in our way, thinking that we have to be something we're not to create it. But why not you? That's all I have to ask, is why not you? And if you write something that feels perfect to you and it works for you, then it'll work for those that are willing to receive.
And I think a really, really important point there, that last, if it works for you, is not everything is for every audience, and that's okay. That's why, like, literally, we've got 24 authors today, right? You've got 24 options. When I go to Baskin Robbins, there are certain ice creams, like, I don't get the blue stuff. Like, I don't know what's in that blue stuff, but I ain't eating it. But I know, like, when my nephews were little, they love the blue ice cream, right? And that's good for them.
And think about the days that you wake up and you see your name on a book.
Mm-hmm.
You did that. And now you wake up and you read your stuff. That's powerful. And it also showcases exactly where your creativity is and where it can continue to transpire. So, whatever it is you're doing, go do it. It's yours.
It's such an important and powerful message. And this really just goes through the theme of the day, that, you know, your goals, your life hacks, your aspirations, there's a lot out there, but there's a lot in you.
Yes.
And I want to go back again a little bit, taking us back a little bit darker. I love the positive energy, but if you're out there, if you're suffering, there are people like Sparkle Lindsay out there who are there. There are people who can help you deal with addictions. There are people who can help you if you have suicidal thoughts. And there's so much negativity in the world. And I took a call from someone recently, and someone else is like, "Why do you take his calls?" And I'm like, "Because I don't want to be the person who doesn't take his call, and I'm the last person that he felt like he could reach to." And they're like, "Oh, that's deep." And I'm like, I've got the emotional capacity and bandwidth for it, and
That's
hopefully
what
someone's there for me.
and your big space is this. No, we do have to have boundaries. And my book talks a
Mhm.
lot about that. And it's also about making sure we keep our cup filled. But one
Yep.
of the biggest places is this. Sometimes what we think is a dark space is ascension, which is very uncomfortable. And it means that your body is speaking to you and saying it's okay to ask for help. And that's the space. Sometimes we can think it's really dark for us, and then if we just have one conversation with somebody who can maybe tell you their story, or just listen to you. Sometimes we just want to be seen, we want to be heard, and those are spaces where that darkness soon becomes light for you. So what is in the dark always has to come to light, and when we start to ask for help, we can actually see that it's not as bad as we thought, especially when we have other people with us.
Yeah, I love that part about darkness and light. I think it's just so incredibly important, especially the way the world is right now. I've talked to a lot of people who are not in the best of spaces, and I'm constantly like, what can you control? If you cannot control it, then is that something that you should be focused on, right? And then a lot of people having issues with their family, and I'm like, okay, if that's the topics that are triggering it, go to things that you can talk about. And we had a author earlier who was talking about, the therapy of stress baking, right? Like,
Mhm.
hey, go back to your family and be like, okay, let's not talk about these topics. Let's just talk about, let's make grandma's favorite bread or something. Let's go to something where we do find that common balance between people.
And it's a space where it's uncomfortable. The gift of being comfortable with being uncomfortable is a beautiful gift. And so sometimes we're not ready for all of that. So we pick a little bit and we put it down. But we kind of talked about the elephant in the room, and I'm not the one to walk around it as it doesn't exist. Ride it. Jump on it and ride it. I guarantee once we do that and we have some people who support us, it's a lot easier to get through that stuff and unravel some of these things so you can truly start to breathe again. And it's not easy, but that is where shadow work comes in, and that is also where that worry and that anxiety, remember, anxiety is something that we usually think about that has never really happened. And so what we do is we create all of this stuff that hasn't happened yet, and it throws us into a lot of stuff. So it's important to ask yourself, is it happening right now? And if it's not, today will never come again. So what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, Sparkle, I really want to say thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I love having authors come on the show. And I do have authors sometimes who are afraid to speak, right? And it's so incredible to like help an author who's got this story, but they don't have this voice. And I'm like, no, you're gonna come on the show. I want you to come on here and share your story. For the authors who are out there, once again, next month, February 14th, we're going to be talking about romance, romantasy, rom-com, poetry, all those things. And I am here to help that author community, to give you that voice, to share your stories, to share the stories behind the stories. And
Oh,
Sparkle, with that, well, any last comments or words before we go to our next speaker?
you know what? Not really, but just be mindful. Be careful what you say to yourself. You are listening. And please do me a favor and tell yourself positive things today.
Love that. Tell yourself positive things. And next, we're going to be talking to Stacy Webb.